welcome to Hayden Cooks a Lot. Today I'm going to be making some sauteed mushrooms as a side dish to go with dinner. So before we get started, make sure your hair is back, sleeves are rolled, nothing on your hands or wrists, and your hands are washed. I have underneath my cutting board my red silicone rubber hot pad, so my cutting board does not move around. You can put down a damp paper towel the length of your cutting board. I have my Saute chef knife. And I already sliced up these mushrooms and I have one left to clean and prep for you. When I go to hold my chef knife, I want to make sure that I slide my middle finger up to right here. I wrap my fingers around. The first finger is bent and right here, and my thumb is on this side of the chef knife. Remember, a chef knife, the blade is lower than the handle. When you get your mushrooms out of the package, they are grown in a little bit of like peat moss. So you're gonna see this dirt that's on them. Do not stick a mushroom under running water or in water to clean it, because these are like a sponge and they're gonna go and they're gonna soak in all kinds of water, and you're not gonna be able to brown your mushroom correctly later because it'll be too wet. And you won't actually notice it, it just does absorb into the cells. So what you wanna do is take a damp towel or a damp paper towel, and you can see here I've already cleaned the other mushrooms. I wiped them off, and I'm just holding it here by its stem, and I'm going to be gently with the damp towel wiping this mushroom to get that little bit of dirt that's off of it. Anywhere that I see that, I'm rotating the towel and rotating that mushroom to wipe it off. Now, you can peel off sometimes on the mushroom, like the top little layer like that of the skin that comes off. That's okay too. Don't worry about it if you start peeling a little bit. That's fine. Okay. And there we go. All the dirt is knocked off of it. Since these were cut a long time ago before, I bought them at the store, I'm going to cut off a little bit of the stem, the bottom of the stem right here. And I want to remove that because that's dried out a little bit. This can go in my compost pile. So I'm going to leave the stems on. If you don't want to leave the stem on, you can just pop it out. It doesn't matter. I'm going to have the mushroom down, the cap side down, and the stem is face up. And now I'm just putting it into several slices. Not too thin, not too thick. So anyway, so I sliced them about like that. Okay. And so here's my pile of sliced mushrooms. So we're going to be ready to saute here in just a second. So I am going to stop the computer and move everything over to the stove area. Your mushrooms do come in a little plastic container right here. These can still be reused for something. So you can give it to little kids. This could be like a pretend little swimming pool for like their little Fisher-Price people or toys or something or other. They could store Legos in these, different colors. It could get stacked inside of a Tupperware container. And I actually use these to grow seeds in sometimes. So you can poke little holes in the bottom, put dirt in here, and then you can line up seeds in here like onion seeds. Onion seeds are only good for 1 year. So I'll grow a whole bunch of them in here at one time, and then after they have sprouted tall enough, then I'll pull out each of the individual plants to go plant in my garden. So you don't have to throw these away. You can reuse them for something. All right, I'm going to return with you in just a second as I move the computer over to the stove. Okay, so I have my cast iron skillet heating up. So I have put it on a medium heat, and I'm hovering my hand about 2 inches over the pan. And when the pan feels very warm to my hand, then I know that my skillet is ready. You don't want to put food in a cold skillet. You want to make sure your skillet's warm first, then you add in your like oils and butter or whatever, and then your food that you're going to be cooking. So, all right, this is feeling pretty good at this point. I'm going to be cooking the fresh sliced white button mushrooms in some butter and some avocado oil. So I'm going to I have a butter stick that's already partially used. If you look on the side of your wrapper, there's measurements. 1 stick equals 1/2 of a cup, and therefore there are 8 tablespoons in there. So you can see the markings for the tablespoons on the side of the wrapper. I'm going to cut off about 3 tablespoons worth of butter. Okay, so this is a 3 tablespoons worth chunk right there, okay? And I'm gonna set that into the pan to let that start melting down. And mushrooms are like sponges, so as they cook, they are going to soak up some of the oil and butter into it. And I'm going to add to this about a tablespoon of avocado oil. And avocado oil does not taste like avocados. This is a monounsaturated fat, and butter is a saturated fat because it came from an animal. So I'm swirling this butter around to melt it down. All right, and I coated the bottom of my pan here, and this is about it's either a 10 or a 12-inch cast iron skillet, which I actually bought the skillet at Walmart. So I'm going to now pick up my cutting board, bring it over, and I'm going to use my hands to put the mushrooms in the butter and oil mixture. And I'm using butter because that's going to add a good flavor to that. All right. So I have a turner here, which is a type of spatula, and I'm going to be using that because I want to be able to get underneath my mushrooms to turn them over and flip them. You can also use a flat-ended wooden spoon to do the same thing. So the butter and oil is already gone out of the bottom of my pan. Why did that happen? Because the mushrooms are sponges and they just soak all of that oil and butter in. It's completely gone at the bottom now. That is why you do not want to wash your mushrooms in water, because they would have absorbed all of that water, and then when you go to cook them, it would start releasing all that water into your pan, and then your mushrooms are not going to want to brown. Okay, so I have tossed the mushrooms around so they have soaked in that butter and oil, and now I'm spreading them out in a single layer. Of course, they're a little bit stacked on top of each other. I have a little extra mushrooms, and that's okay. And I'm just gonna let them sit, okay? And they're gonna brown, which will start to caramelize that so they taste really good. So mushrooms are very nutritious for us. They have vitamin B, vitamin D, riboflavin, niacin, selenium is in that, copper, potassium, and they have a little bit of protein, and of course they have fiber in them. So really good vegetable for you to be eating. And this goes really well with steak or chicken as a good side dish. So now I'm flipping these over, and they're already browning. So we're getting a golden color from the side that I let sit. And now I'm going to spread these back out. And I'll do the same thing again in a minute. There we go. And I'm getting a good aroma coming out on that. It smells delicious. Love it. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle or not. All right. So as they start to cook, they start to change texture. So they're going from this like texture that's kind of soft and spongy, and they kind of turn more of a, not rubbery, chewy, but sort of like that. So they turn of like a different shade of brown going on here. All right, so that has browned a little bit. Now I'm gonna scrape underneath again and flip this over. Making sure I get all sides of the pan. So nothing gets burnt. And flip and flip. Okay, and I'm gonna pull one of them out here so you can see how it's already turning golden brown. And they also start to shrink. So they were pretty large when we started with, and they've already shrunk down about 1/3 of their size is gone at this point. So they are getting smaller. And that looks good. Now some of that butter and oil is being released out of the mushrooms right now because it went from soaking it all up and look like a dried pan. And now as they're cooking, and I've turned it around, tossed them around, now they're starting to release some of that oil and butter back out of the mushroom. So I can see bubbles at the bottom of my pan here. And some of its moisture that's in the mushroom is also coming out. Now I'm flipping these back over. So this is a pretty quick side dish. Goes pretty fast. If you don't slice your mushrooms and you leave them whole, you just trim off a little bit off of the bottom, they'll still cook fine, but they might take a little bit longer than what we are doing here. All right, these look good. Smelling really good. A lot of vegetarians will eat mushrooms in place of meat. So because of the little bit of protein that they have in there and all the nutrients they have, especially a portobello mushroom, which is a large mushroom. And they'll grill that up sometimes or cook it and then use it as like a piece of steak. So, and then they'll slice that up. Or they make portobello burgers out of it, put that big hunk on there and then put vegetables and stuff like, you know, tomato, lettuce, onion, whatever, and pretend it's a burger made from meat. All right, I'm gonna flip these over. I like to cook mushrooms a variety of ways. So this is an easy side dish that I do. But one of the things that my son likes to have at holiday time is stuffed mushrooms. So I have to get 2 gigantic packages because they just scarf them up. But I'll pop the stems out of them, just have the caps, and then I make a mixture with crab meat and some like, what do I put in there? Breadcrumbs and a bunch of different herbs and stuff. And I think it might have a little bit of cream cheese in there. Anyway, I put a whole bunch of stuff in there and I stuff them. And then I brush on there a fresh garlic butter that I make and I bake them off in the oven. Oh, it also has a little bit of Parmesan cheese in it. Oh man, those things are really good. All right, so these mushrooms are getting really good and golden. Here's a pretty looking one. You can see that gold. Can you see that? Nah, okay. Golden color going on there. Looking good. So this is almost finished. And then at the end, I had already put, remember, the avocado oil and the butter in there, and the butter adds good flavor to this. And at the end, I'm gonna sprinkle on soy sauce. So instead of putting salt on there, I'm gonna use soy sauce, and I don't wanna put that on until the very end because the soy sauce will burn, okay? So right before I'm ready to pull it off the heat, I'm gonna soy sauce it. And that'll add extra flavor, and then I'll probably sprinkle in a little bit of black pepper too. All right, so these look really good, and they've shrunk down to half of their size now. Yummy. All right, so let me get this ready. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put that black pepper on now. And this is a grinder that I have. This came from Williams-Sonoma. They don't actually make this grinder anymore, but this has different settings on there, and I have it on the fine grind because I like fine ground pepper on mine, not chunks of pepper that stick in my teeth. All right, and I'm going to shake up this soy sauce and give this mushroom another turn real quick. And they are good and golden brown now. So now I'm ready to put in my soy. So let's eyeball it. All right, so sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Okay, and that is about a tablespoon's worth of soy sauce I just put in. Right, 1 tablespoon is the same thing as 3 teaspoons as an equivalent. Okay, and now that aroma just popped up. That smells delicious. Okay, and then spreading that out. And now I'm going to need to turn off my heat because I don't want that soy sauce to burn. That looks really good. Okay, let me get a fork here. Need to taste this and see what it tastes like. All right, beautiful. Okay, let's get a little plate. Mmm. Okay, they're a deep golden brown, and that soy sauce made it look really dark too. Okay. Yummy. All right. Mmm. They're juicy. They're delicious. The butter and soy is great together. Good amount of black pepper in there. Very good. All right. Well, I hope you try some sauteed mushrooms. Thanks for joining me.